G'day viewers, the end of another week means it's time once more for Totally Fucked Up Friday, where I bring you a few stories that pretty much prove the world really is totally fucked up. Now first, let's talk about news in general. I discovered this week that Canada actually has a law that broadcast news isn't allowed to lie. You'd lose your broadcasting license if you broadcast things that you knew to be a lie when you broadcast it. Now see, that wouldn't affect people like me, first because I'm not broadcasting on the internet, I'm not broadcasting, I'm on the internet. Second, this is humour, satire, parody. So any sort of spoof shows like The Daily Show, doesn't affect them because you're making jokes. You know who it does affect? Fox News. Fox News can't broadcast in Canada because they would be breaching the law. I talked about a story before where Fox actually won a case in the US to do the opposite. They actually had the legal right to deliberately lie to their audience. For all the talk of bias and this and that, this guy's biased and so's that guy, it can't be laid any clearer. When Fox News is presented with a legal standard that says you can't knowingly lie, they can't broadcast. This came to light because the Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper was pushing to have this law repealed, which would allow various obnoxious news organisations to broadcast in Canada, and the regulators backed up and went, no, not changing, no way, no how. And I believe it'd be fair to say a significant majority of Canadian population supports them. But just think about that. If you're a Fox News supporter and you think, they're just providing a balance, Fox chooses not to broadcast in Canada because they can't meet a legal standard showing they are not knowingly lying when they broadcast. And they've been caught out again and again when they put negative stuff about Ron Paul up, but they were showing footage from a completely different event to what they were talking about. When they put up surveys and they say, look, 70% of Americans don't support collective bargaining, which is key to the fight in Wisconsin, when in fact the survey said the exact opposite. Fox know they're lying. People who don't like Fox know they're lying. And apparently there's a big chunk of America who's either too fucking stupid to know that they're being lied to so blatantly, or they just enjoy being comforted by a big cocoon of lies that let them continue in their moronic fucking blinkered life. Either way, that is totally fucked up. In another fairly fine example of ignorance, Japanese boy band Kishidan got in a bit of trouble for appearing on an MTV interview dressed in what amounted to Nazi uniforms. Very Nazi uniforms, even red armbands. Not a swastika. Who knew? I've had friends show me books and other paraphernalia they've bought in Japan and other parts of Asia that has the swastika on them. Now, in some context, you can excuse that because the swastika is a much older symbol than the Nazis. But in Japan particularly, it's been highlighted, it's become just a pop culture icon, and there is next to no understanding in the mainstream of why someone might see that as negative. Now look, they're a fucking boy band. I don't expect them to be mental giants, and the Japanese education system is notorious for glossing over little incidents like World War II. I've seen news stories where Japanese tourists sunbaking in Hawaii on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor are asked about it and they go, no, Pearl Harbor doesn't ring a bell. Is that important? So, they're not educated very well. So I guess, a boy band are fucking idiots. Big surprise. Sony, their record label's been forced to apologise. The only question I find myself asking, okay, boy band thick as shit, is everyone at Sony that stupid? Fuck, is everyone in Japan that fucking ignorant of the outside world? That's totally fucked up. Talk about a fine export from Japan. The Mazda car. Now, the Mazda car seems to have inexplicably come under attack from spiders. I shit you not, they've had to recall about 50,000 cars because there's this spider that's got into the fuel system and is building webs which cause blockages in the fuel tank which end up with the car leaking fuel. Fucking spiders sabotaging cars. They're freaky enough as it is. Have I mentioned before, the animal kingdom, the insect world, they're out to fucking get us. Look, step 1, spiders in the fuel tanks of Mazdas. Step 2, watch the fuck out for spiders carrying cigarette lighters. And finally, an example of how moral puritanism and zero tolerance is inevitably going to lead to really fucking stupid results. An alderman in Tasmania is now on the sex offenders list for having essentially child porn. Now, what happened? His laptop was stolen at one point, and I just blew a fuse. Did you get that? Did you get that? I mentioned stupid child porn laws, and the fucking censors come down on me. It's a conspiracy, I tells ya. Anyway, this alderman had had his laptop stolen, it was recovered, and then, whether it was on a tip-off or something else, they did a forensic scan, and a bunch of porn either was or had been stored on it. They're saying 10,000 pornographic items on there, to which I say, amateur! But one of the items out of 10,000 got him in trouble. It was a book he downloaded called The Pearl. Now, this is supposedly a collection of Victorian England era erotica stories, and some of the stories have sexual activity involving girls as young as 12, which was the age of consent at the time the material was published. So this guy has got now a child porn record for possessing something that is sold legally in bookshops in Australia. Wait, that's starting to sound familiar. Victorian era erotica. That sounds a little bit like a book Mistress M read from once, and I made a video, not all for 12-year-old, but it was from the book. No, it wasn't, okay? No, forget this story. It didn't happen. I don't want to hear about it again. The idea of being persecuted for, well, I was going to say, you know what? The idea of being persecuted for buying a legal product is Victorian era bloody morality. But this was legal in Victorian era, and it was produced then, and it's legal now. But now this guy has, he's on the sex offender register, which is, you know, the end of your life essentially. And this is all for a product that is still being sold in Australian bookshops.